question. Who won the 2020 presidential election?
Joe Biden is the President of the United States.
Ms. Bondi, you know that there is a difference between acknowledging it and, I can say that Donald Trump won the 2024 election. I may not like it, but I can say it. You cannot say who won the 2020 presidential election. Okay. It's disturbing that you can't.
During that period of time. Senator Hirono.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As part of my responsibility to ensure the fitness of all nominees, I ask the following two initial questions. First, since you became a legal adult, have you ever made unwanted requests for sexual favors or committed any verbal or physical harassment or assault of a sexual nature?
No, Senator.
Have you ever faced discipline or entered into a settlement relating to this kind of conduct?
No, Senator.
Ms. Bondi, I am focused on two things in my evaluation of President-elect Trump's nominees. The first is whether the nominee is qualified and experienced enough to do the job. The second is a fitness to serve, which includes putting loyalty to the Constitution over loyalty to the president. Unfortunately, in my view, many of President-elect Trump's nominees are lacking in at least one of these two requirements. Ms. Bondi, your experience as a prosecutor is the kind of thing we would expect to see in a nominee for Attorney General, but I do have questions and concerns about potential conflicts of interest, about whether you will keep DOJ's law enforcement responsibilities independent of the president's political whims, and about whether you will let facts and evidence guide your decisions. So let's start with the importance of facts, which you say is important. Ms. Bondi, we want an Attorney General who bases decisions on facts. So I want to ask you a factual question. Who won the 2020 presidential election?
Joe Biden is the President of the United States.
Ms. Bondi, you know that there is a difference between acknowledging it and, I can say that Donald Trump won the 2024 election. I may not like it, but I can say it. You cannot say who won the 2020 presidential election. Okay. It's disturbing that you can't give voice to that fact. Moving on to DOJ's independence from politics. Ms. Bondi, if you are confirmed as Attorney General, you will take an oath to the Constitution and not to any individual, including the President. To start, I'd like to know during the election, during the campaign. First, are the felons convicted of breaking into the Capitol on January 6th hostages or patriots, quoting Trump, as President-elect Trump has said repeatedly? Do you agree with his characterization of the felons that I referred to?
I am not familiar with that statement, Senator.
I just familiarized you with that statement. Do you agree with that statement?
I'm not familiar with it, Senator.
No answer. He has also said illegal immigration is poisoning the blood of our nation. He said that in December 2023. Do you agree with that statement?
Senator, I am not familiar with that statement, but what I can tell you is I went to the border a few months ago. I went to Yuma, Arizona, and what I saw at that border was horrific, Senator. It was horrific.
Ms. Bondi,
I went to a rape crisis center.
That is
If I could
not my
finish.
question.
I went to a rape crisis center. Well, I'm not familiar with the statement, but I went to a rape crisis center. I met with Border Patrol agents. I'm sure you've been to the
Ms.
border
Bondi,
as well. So
I
you
want to
could
get
answer
to my
that.
next question. So I believe that you responded to a question from Senator Whitehouse, and let me get your response again. You said that the White House, if I'm putting words in your mouth, correct me. You said that the White House will play no role in investigative or charging decisions in the DOJ. Is that correct?
Senator, what I said is that it is the Department of Justice's decision to determine what cases will be prosecuted.
What role will the White House have in investigative or prosecutorial decisions of the DOJ?
It is the Department of Justice's decision, Senator.
So that sounds to me that you're saying that the White House will not have any kind of role. Meanwhile, though, you have an incoming president who said, I have the absolute right to do what I want to do with the Justice Department. And in fact, President-elect Trump considers the DOJ to be his law firm. I ask you this. If President-elect Trump suggests, or hints that you as Attorney General should investigate one of his proceedings, would you do so?
Me, had you met
Now,
who refused discussed is that it is the Attorney General to
I'm very
follow
happy to listen
the
to your
law.
responses under oath, Ms. Bondi. So I think it's really important to us that the Attorney General be independent. of the White House, and you have a president-elect who considers the AG's office his law firm, I would like to know whether if the president suggests, hints, asks that you as Attorney General should investigate one of his perceived enemies?
Senator,
you
I
do?
certainly have not heard the president say that, but what I will tell you is 2/3 of Americans have lost faith in the Department of Justice. And it's statements like that, I believe,
Ms.
that make
Bondi.
people continue to lose faith. If I am confirmed as Attorney General, it will be my job
Getting
to
on
not
to my
only
next
keep
question,
America
you're not
safe,
responding.
but restore integrity to that department.
Why don't we
And that's
move
what
on
I
to
plan
something
on
that
doing
you said?
every single day as Attorney General.
On August 25th, 2025, on Fox News, you said, when Republicans, prosecutors will be prosecuted, once the investigators will be investigated. Ms. Bondi, is Jack Smith one of those bad prosecutors that you will prosecute as AG?
Senator, you hesitated a bit when I said the bad ones. Every decision will
Sometimes
be
badness
made
in the eyes of the beholder. I'm just asking whether you would consider Jack Smith
Senator,
to be one of the people. How about Liz Cheney?
Senator,
How about Merrick Garland?
I am not going to medicals. No one has been prejudged, or nor will
I
anyone
am
be
asking whether
prejudged if I am
these are the
confirmed.
kind of people, these are in fact the people that you would prosecute. I'm not
Your
getting an answer.
time is up. Would you like to?
My time is,
Would you like to
Mr.
respond?
Chairman, she is clearly not going to answer that question, so let me get on to,
Would you like to?
I do have
I'd love to
questions for the second round.
You'll have a second round. Would you like to speak before I call on Senator?
The moment hangs in the air as Senator Mazie Hirono presses forward, her voice steady, her question simple, and yet the room shifts when the answer never fully comes. She asks a factual question that requires no interpretation, no ideology, no allegiance, only acknowledgement. Who won the 2020 presidential election? And in that pause, in that careful sidestep, something larger than a confirmation hearing is revealed. Not through shouting, not through spectacle, but through silence. This is how power is often exposed in Washington, not by what is said, but by what cannot be said. A nominee for the nation's top law enforcement office, faced with a question about reality itself, chooses caution over clarity. The exchange is brief, but its implications are vast. Because the Department of Justice does not exist to protect narratives. It exists to protect the rule of law. And the rule of law depends on a shared understanding of facts. What Senator Hirono is probing is not partisan preference. It is something more fundamental. Whether loyalty to the Constitution can truly outweigh loyalty to a president. Whether facts can stand on their own without being filtered through political convenience. Whether independence is a principle or merely a talking point. Pam Bondi speaks often about restoring trust, about integrity, about confidence in institutions that many Americans feel have drifted from their purpose. But trust is not restored through deflection. Confidence is not rebuilt through hesitation. And integrity cannot coexist with ambiguity when the facts are settled and known. The hearing moves forward, but the pattern remains. Questions are asked directly. Answers arrive indirectly. Statements by the president-elect are reference quoted, placed squarely on the record. Yet again, the response is distance. Not familiar, not aware, not engaging the substance. And in that repetition, the concern deepens. Because this is not merely about one nominee, this is about the future posture of the Department of Justice itself. A department that must stand apart from political pressure, even when that pressure comes from the highest office in the land. Especially when it comes from there. Senator Hirono returns again and again to the same core issue, independence. If the president suggests, hints, or asks for investigations into perceived enemies, what happens then? The question is not hypothetical. The words have been spoken publicly. The expectations have been voiced openly. And yet, the answer remains carefully framed, never quite landing where accountability lives. Instead, we hear about lost faith, about public skepticism, about restoring confidence. But confidence is not restored by avoiding difficult truths. Faith in institutions is strengthened when those institutions demonstrate backbone. when they show that no individual, no matter how powerful, stands above the law. This exchange lays bare a tension at the heart of American governance. The Constitution envisions a system of checks and balances, not personal loyalty and reward. The Attorney General is not a personal advocate. The Department of Justice is not a private instrument. It is meant to serve the people, guided by evidence, fairness, and equal application of the law. And when a nominee hesitates to affirm basic realities, senators are right to question what happens when the stakes are higher, when the pressure is stronger, when the request is quieter, delivered behind closed doors instead of under bright lights. The hearing closes without resolution, but the questions linger. They echo beyond the committee room, beyond the cameras, into a nation already wrestling with uncertainty about its institutions. Americans are not asking for perfection. They are asking for honesty, for courage, for leaders who can speak plainly when plain truth is required. This moment is not about scoring points. It is about drawing a line between law and politics, between independence and influence, between facts and convenience. Once that line blurs, restoring it becomes far more difficult. History shows us that democratic systems do not collapse all at once. They erode gradually through normalization of hesitation, through acceptance of ambiguity where clarity is owed. And every moment like this one becomes a small test. A test of whether the system holds or bends. What unfolded in this hearing is a reminder that democracy is not maintained by slogans or speeches. It is maintained by people willing to answer hard questions honestly, even when the answer is uncomfortable, especially then. The Constitution does not defend itself. It relies on those sworn to uphold it. And that oath is not symbolic. It is a promise to the law, to the public, and to future generations that justice will not be shaped by allegiance or fear. As viewers, as citizens, we are left with a responsibility as well. To pay attention, to listen closely, to recognize when silence speaks louder than words, and to demand accountability from those who seek power over the most consequential institutions in the nation. Because the strength of American democracy is not measured by who wins an argument in a hearing room. It is measured by whether truth is spoken plainly, and whether the law remains independent when it matters most. If you believe these moments deserve scrutiny, if you believe accountability should never be optional, support our work to expose the truth. Subscribe to Liberty Report USA.